All right, welcome to Lakers Today, presented by Offside and the Offside app. Join us at offside.gg. We have live game chats, stat cards, really cool things in the app. Come join us. We have Lakers and Rockets fans in there. But today, I have a really special guest, someone I would call a friend. And I think the really cool part about having these playoff series is you get to meet a lot of the people that you become friends with online through these games. I have Varun Shankar of the Houston Chronicle, beat reporter. And what a series we've had, Varun. How are you doing today?
Twists and turns, man. It's like you said, it's been great to get to meet you in person. I think this is the first time. Game one would have been the first time that we met in person
Yes.
after a very long time knowing each other on social media.
Yes, Varun is actually flying back and forth between these games. I am staying in Los Angeles, luckily. But the place I want to start, Varun, is I think the cool part again, the great work that people like you do that do follow the team, that are in shoot around, that are at practice. I want to rewind a little bit and go back to a little bit of a happier time for me, but I'm just interested to see and ask you, as a person who's there every day, what was the vibe like just right after the Lakers win game 3, right? They come back from a 6 point lead in just around 30 seconds, get the win in overtime. What was the vibe like around the team versus where it is now, which feels like a Rockets team that is hungry and smells old blood, right? An older team that's starting to bleed. What's kind of the contrast of what the vibes were like?
I mean, right after that game, it was pretty grim for the Rockets. Obviously, you have a chance to make this a 2-1 series, win your game at home, take care of business, and then two pretty inexplicable turnovers make you down 3-0, a deficit that no one has ever come back from. Ime Udoka was really angry after the
Mm.
game. He was, telling basically his team that he basically told his team, like, you guys have to grow up. When I look at you guys, I don't see 22, 23-year-olds. I see 3 years experience in the NBA. I see 4 years experience in the NBA. I see 5 years experience in the NBA. And he was just not happy in any respect about how that game went, especially because this is a Rockets team that has had consistent issues closing out games all season. And I think it was extremely frustrating for them to see it pop up in that exact way once again.
My favorite moment from that game, I mean, not to go long on game 3 because the series is in a completely different place than after that game, but I think my favorite moment, Rune, I don't know if you caught this, but obviously after the Jabari Smith turnover, right? Marcus Smart is almost the only one playing basketball still on the Lakers side. Everyone else has given up, has decided to concede. Rockets are going to make this a 2-1 series. Smart steals the basketball, and then Jayshawn Tate just decides to, I guess, ram into him and fouls him. And Ime Udoka, I rewind to kind of zoom in, is just irate. Is
It's one of
just
the funniest reactions ever.
yeah, he's like, jumping up and down, upset. I'm sure profanity is being thrown in different directions.
Absolutely.
And I'm thinking, well, rewatching, obviously I have kind of I'm able to take the context of that, but I'm like, Marcus Smart still has to go up and hit 3 free throws. The Rockets are still up 3 in this situation, even if he hits all these free throws, and there's only 20 something seconds left. Obviously, fast forward, Reed Shepard turns the ball over, and then LeBron ties the game. I thought just that moment there kind of it showed me, I guess, the desperation of the Houston Rockets. But now the series is in a completely different place. It feels like to me, Rune, and I'm including that game, the Rockets have controlled the last 3 games
Yeah.
of this series. There's a bunch of different places, but just from your perspective on the Houston side, what has been the biggest shift from the Lakers taking the first 2 games? It seemed like they were in control. Obviously, Kevin Durant does play in one of those, so that changes a little bit the situation. Reed Shepard re-entering or getting back into the rotation. What do you feel like is the biggest difference from Houston to be able to control really all these last 3 games?
A couple things stand out to me. The first is that I think the Rockets defense has really hit a new level. And part of that is also that I think you're seeing some of the Lakers role players who had outsized performances in the first 2 games starting to come back to earth, namely Smart and Kennard.
Mm.
But I think you've also seen guys like Tari Eason get a lot more run and against LeBron and really have some success in that matchup. You've seen Alperen Şengün, I think, play some really improved defense, especially when he gets switched onto different matchups. You've seen the Rockets be less afraid to switch actions with Reed Shepard in the game.
Mm.
And even if that means that Reed is going to have to defend Rui Hachimura or in the post a couple of times, I think the Rockets are like, all right, that's fine. Make him work. We'll send some help. That's fine. And because the alternative is that you go into show and recover, and then you're getting into rotation, and LeBron's just picking you apart. I think that's something that they really struggle with. And I think that generally speaking, the Lakers offense seemed so dynamic, and it always seemed like they were just a step ahead of the Rockets defenders. The play that always stands out to me is Jake LaRavia comes out and runs, I think it was a DHO, where he kind of runs all the way out to like 30 feet away from the basket. And for some reason, Reed Shepard is trailing him the entire time, goes over the screen. LaRavia's running to the hoop, and there's rotation, kick out for a three, so on and so forth. But the Rockets defense has been a little bit better. And so now they're able to get out in transition a little bit more. And I think that since game two, Shepard plays just 10 minutes. And then games three, four, and five, he's been huge part of the rotation ever since. Part of that is because Kevin Durant has been out. And when he and Amen Thompson are both in the game, the Rockets offense hits a new speed in a way that they don't really any other time. And I think that allows them to just get out and run a little bit more, get some easy baskets, and they're just winning the margins a little bit better. And I think they're forcing turnovers, which is something that they did a decent amount during the regular season, but like it wasn't a massive strength of theirs. And so the defense turning into offense has really been a theme for me. And just 3-point regression, another thing.
Yeah, obviously the Rockets aren't better without Kevin Durant. I've seen that start to sprinkle throughout conversations, and I just that's not a place I can get to.
Yeah,
I think
it's a
Utah.
podcast, so it's a auditory audience. So I guess people should know that when you said that, I rolled my eyes because
Right. Right. Yeah. So no, Kevin Durant has been awesome this season. Only missed 4 games, I believe, in the regular season, and it's unfortunate what happened with the injuries. You talked about the speed going up, and this is where I kind of go with you next. I feel like without KD, there's definitely a level of now freedom. It doesn't mean that Kevin Durant was the one shackling them, but I feel like there was a level of freedom on the offense where there was a possession where Sengun got an offensive rebound, and there was no looking out to like clear the basketball or restart the offense. It was just everybody clear out. This is still my possession. I'm going to the rack. I see Reed Shepard also be able to be a little bit more on ball control without Kevin Durant, get to run more ball screens, take kind of step back threes. And Thompson obviously gets loose. He can be on or off the ball, but just without KD, is there a little bit more ball movement, even though KD is a amazing universe to be in orbit around? Just it feels like there's a little bit more free flowing to their offense. And like the Lakers have put their Kevin Durant defensive game plan on paper, right? Like this is what we're gonna do every time KD has the basketball. We're gonna blitz at the top of the key and live with everything else. I think him being out has kind of forced other guys in different places, and I feel like it's helped Houston. Have you seen that as well? I guess when Kevin Durant is not playing.
Kind of, yes. Because I mean, you look back to game one, and the Rockets are horrible without Durant, right?
Yeah,
And these
sure.
last few games, their offense has been better, but it's still not, world beaters in any sense. It can still look pretty ugly. And I think that if you go back to the regular season, there were a decent amount of moments where you saw the Rockets have a a really motion based offense and get the right kind of ball movement, even when Kevin Durant is in the game. And he's going to draw two defenders whenever he runs pick and roll for most teams, whether they're going to trap him aggressively like LA is doing, or if they're just going to have the big come up to the level, and then you got Şengün on the roll, and then he's coming downhill. You got shooter spacing, you got Amen Thompson cutting to the rim. It's a thing that we've seen from the Rockets offense again and again. I do think in these last few games, you've seen the Rockets offense just be a little bit more organized. I think that
Mm.
one thing that really frustrated me in game two was because Shepard played so minimally, the Rockets were just playing so many lineups where they had three non-shooters, sometimes four non-shooters, and even if you got Durant out there, now the Lakers are gonna help off of, they're happy to help off Jayshawn Tate. They're happy to help off Amen Thompson and Alperen Şengün. And you just get into a situation where you don't have enough spacing to punish teams. Durant said it himself. He said they're daring us to shoot. They're daring us to make plays. The Rockets didn't have enough players who were able to do so. And I think these last few games, getting Shepard more minutes and then just shrinking the rotation a little bit, bringing Dorian Finney-Smith, who did not shoot the three this well this season, but I think is still treated as a good shooter by defenses because of his career numbers. Having him in the game, I think, keeps defenses a little bit more honest. And of course, Durant's not out there, so they don't need to put those doubles. But yeah, I think that they're just playing a little bit better in every single aspect. I don't know that it's necessarily with Durant being out, because I mean, some of this is guys making tough shots. Like Jabari Smith Jr. was just making everything contested in game 5. I want to say, yeah, last game.
Yeah, he's in like I feel like he's just been an incredible shot maker this series, and we have no one to contest. I think it was I forgot which game it was, maybe game 4, game 3. Bronny was on him, and Bronny was technically there, but Bronny's 6'2", and Jabari Smith just jab stepped, shot over him. I thought in this series that Reed Shepherd has kind of been the story, especially for Rockets fans. Hey, why is this guy not playing? Played, I believe, 11 minutes in game 2. And honestly, Varun, if he plays that game, who knows where the Lakers are sitting now if Reed Shepherd was actually in the series. But I like the point you brought up of he's hiding on Rui Hachimura. And I think that is a very interesting kind of place where this series can go. But just at least in game 5, it felt like the Lakers forced the Reed Shepherd kind of we're gonna hunt him, and I just don't think Rui is dynamic enough of a screener. And to me, this is an outside perspective, and I want to ask you. I feel like Reed's a better defender than I guess. Like we put, I feel like we put defense in a black or white box of he's good or he's bad, right? There's very little context taken on defense, especially we do this on offense. We're able to separate. Is he a good shooter? Can he drive, hit mid range? But I feel like on defense, it's kind of, hey, he's a terrible defender. He's a good defender. I feel like Reed has very good hands. His timing on steals is really good. And this is not really, X's and O's, but I feel like he's tough. Like the clip that's going around today is LeBron bumping him, and then and then he goes down and hits a clutch shot. But yeah, is that something I guess you've seen from him this season where teams have tried to hunt him, and sometimes that can actually be their detriment because they've taken, this has happened with Steph Curry in the past where teams kind of take their whole offense to try to go at him. And so I'm sure Houston fans are very, familiar with Steph Curry, by the way. But in any case, have you seen that this season with Reed where, teams do try to hunt him and it kind of, he's actually can, hold up a little better than you would think?
Sometimes, but I do think the defensive issues are real. And
Mm-hmm.
you're right that we sometimes put defense into too much of a binary of are you a good defender or not. And
Yeah.
he does some good things on the defensive end. I think he gets a ton of stocks because he has really good hands. Now, if you look at it though, even though he gets a lot of stocks, a lot of steals, the opponent turnover rate does not go up when he is
Mm,
on the court during the regular season. And what that tells me is, and I think this is one of Ime Udoka's biggest problems, is that Reed gambles for steals a lot. When he can get out of position instead of just trying to stay in front of his man. He is an aggressive player, and this is something that he was coached to do at lower levels because his hands were so good. And
mm,
you get away with it at lower levels, but this is the NBA, man. Like they will punish you. I don't
yeah.
remember when it was in particular, but I want to say either game 3 or 4. He kind of he gets brought into a ball screen with LeBron as the ball handler. He shows out aggressively. And he's about to be able to do his job as far as LeBron has taken a step back to retreat. The original defender is back into the matchup, and now Reed can go back to Rui. I think it was Rui. Except now Reed swipes the ball and he kind of lunges and he's totally out of position. He kind of
Mm,
misses and he's on the other side of LeBron and it's a wide open 3. And that's the kind of thing that drives Ime nuts. And that's one of the reasons that you saw Reed struggle to, I don't know. I mean, he played the third most minutes of second year players this season. So it's
mm.
not like he didn't play. He was definitely their sixth man. But I think situationally, you saw the Rockets be worried about how much he could hold up. And, he's he's skinnier, I would say. Especially just a function of age, I would say.
Yeah.
He's a pretty tall guy. He's like 6'3", so I'm not too worried about what this is going to look like down the line. But for right now, he can get bodied, right? And so these are all things that make him a big blinking target on the court, especially for a guy like LeBron, who, like you said, has
Yeah.
spent so many years just targeting Steph.
Right, and that's what I think that's the interesting part of this series where, in my opinion, I think that has kind of become a dead end. I think the Rockets are extremely prepared for that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they'll live with if you want to involve Rui in every action, go ahead, and if you want Rui to be your dynamic screener, just watching Rui all season, that guy can shoot the ball, but as a screener and kind of the timing instinctual on knowing when to pop, knowing when to roll, kind of when to get to the right spots. He's kind of struggled with that. So that's something I'm looking forward to. The guy I want to go to next, I feel like Amin Thompson has exploded in these last few
He's
games.
so good, man.
it's funny, and because again, as someone from the outside, in my opinion, it's impossible to watch every team every day. But like, I feel like Almond has some polarizingness in the fan base, at least in the Rockets fan base. There's some, and I think when you don't have a jump shot, like it just leads to conversations of, is it Ben Simmons or is it right? Like there's just there's some interesting conversations to go, but he's been brilliant. What have you seen from him in these last at least 3 games? And the jumper's starting to go. He's shooting 45% from mid range, which that's a shot the Lakers want to give up, and he's hitting that at a pretty good, decent percentage. He had some open threes as well in Game 5, which if he's hitting that, those are almost worth 6 points to me because again, those are defense. That's what you're pointing the defense to. If they score on those, it's just that really hurts you. But yeah, Amon has exploded to me, and his athleticism I think is starting to take over games. And Luke Kennard, obviously, I think Luke Kennard has done his job this series. Like he had his 20 plus games in the first two, had 1 point in Game 5. That'll be plastered everywhere as it should. I mean, as it's expected in NBA coverage. But he's afraid to dribble around Amin Thompson, and I find like that point of attack defense has been advertised. But yeah, what have you seen from him in this series, and does any of this surprise you from him?
No, I am of the Rockets' young players. I am probably highest on Amen.
Oh wow, okay.
There's just not like there's. I always want to say that there's nobody like him athletically, and then I forget that he has a twin brother. So I guess there's one other
Right.
person who's like him athletically, but
Yeah.
he does so many things on the court that you're like, that's freaky, right? And
Yeah.
so I'm betting on that in the long term and in the short term. The jump shot is a real thing. Him not having that, like you said, the Lakers can funnel offense in terms of getting the ball to him on the perimeter with 6 on the shot clock when he's wide open from three, and he's going to take it, and most of the time he's going to miss it. And despite that, in the regular season and in the playoffs, he's a defined positive. No matter what lineup you put him out with, no matter what situation, no matter what spacing, no matter if he's like, you want him to score, he'll score. You want him to play make, he'll play make. You want him to get to the line, he'll get to the line. You want him to rebound, he'll do that better than any guard because he's not really a guard. He's also a forward. He's actually also a power forward. He's also actually a point guard. You know what I mean? He can do anything basically. You want him to defend? Sure, he'll defend a forward. He'll defend a big. He'll defend a guard. He's among the more versatile players, except for the fact that he cannot shoot, which is a pretty big issue. But at the same time, it hasn't stopped him from being an effective player. And there are multiple players like this who you see that they're able to have positive impact around the NBA without the jump shot. I think of this is not the right example right now based on how the Knicks Hawks game is going, but I think Dyson Daniels numbers, he's a positive when he's on the court. And they need to be surrounded in the right team context, obviously, because if you have too many non-shooters on the floor, it's going to be a huge issue. But even with the bare minimum of shooting around him, I think Thompson is great. And one thing that I think he's done in particular, the first couple games of the series, one thing that frustrated me was he was driving into the paint pretty aggressively and kind of blindly at times.
Mm.
And he was expecting foul calls that weren't coming, and he said so. And these last few games, you've seen him do a much better job of varying his pace. It's really been screwing with the Lakers, and he's doing a better job of knowing when to go up and when to kick out. And I think that's doing well for him.
Yeah, it's interesting because the conversation around him is should he be on or off ball, right? And can you be an on ball player that can't shoot? That's like an interesting like archetype in the league, right? That's in the Russell Westbrook camp, and I always argue that. And obviously, Houston fans are very familiar with Russell Westbrook as well. But I would argue Russell Westbrook in his prime had a mid range jump shot that
Mhm.
did not arrive with him in Los Angeles, but like he had one, in his career. Most impressive thing to me, and obviously Aman's young. What is he? 23,
Yeah.
23. Okay. So I understand these players can play high minutes, and Ime is leveraging the hell out of that. I mean, these guys are playing absurd, but he played 46 minutes in Game 5. I believe 44 minutes in Game 4. And that dude does not look tired.
No.
Like, does not look like he's. I was watching, Varun in Game 5. Like Austin Reeves, obviously just returned, but huffing and puffing, right, hands on his knees. And I'm watching Amin Thompson just sprint up and down the floor, without any kind of exhaustion. Is that like what you were expecting from him? Is that the stamina I guess he showed in the regular season as well?
I want to say the regular season he was either first or second in the NBA in minutes per game. I want to say
Mm,
first actually because I think Kevin Durant was second.
mm,
Um, yes, to be honest. He's someone that Ime's happy to put out in any situation. He will play the most minutes in a game pretty consistently, and he will be just about as effective as he was in minute 44 as he was in minute 7. So his endurance is, again, I want to say second to none, but we got to worry about a star there.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, the Star is just not as good as Amin either, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
that's another thing. I want to get on a soapbox for a second.
yeah, yeah, please.
Can we stop grouping the twins together when we make points about them? Like, I understand the desire to do so, but they are different players. They have
Sure.
similarities, but they are different players at this point in their, in terms of how their teams use them and how in terms of how they're, playing, in terms of how good they are at various things. And so they have similarities, but I don't think that we need to constantly lump them together and decide that one of their performances is either an indictment or a reason to build up the other. Let them be separate players.
Sure. My favorite thing I think is on a Pistons broadcast where you'll just hear anything that Asar does that, hey, Amin, his brother Amin, Thompson. So they'll just kind of put them together. Both teams, I believe, down 3-2, right? I believe
Yeah.
the Pistons also kind of won that game. Before we go to game 6, the last thing I want to kind of ask about, and this was one of my kind of keys to the series. Sengun versus Aiton has been interesting. I asked, some Rockets people, they're like, yeah, Sengun should be able to dominate Aiton. And from my perspective, I feel like Aiton's done a good job in single coverage. Now, Sengun has got his way, I feel like, in the last few games, and up to the point where the Lakers decided to double him, which I thought was a mistake, at least as egregiously as they did in terms of the spacing. But what have you seen from that matchup? Aiton has starting to pick it up as well. Now, Aiton's actually won his minutes in game 5. The Jackson Hayes minutes have been disastrous. Ime Udoka has gone the other route and just completely removed the backup center from the equation. Clint Capella is no longer even in the rotation, which I think is smart and what I would expect JJ to do. But have you seen that center matchup play out between those two? Aiton's minutes are starting to climb to try to match Sengun's. Now, he's not the youthful, he doesn't have the youthful exuberance that Sengun has. So Sengun is playing 43, 44 minutes. I don't think Aiton will play that much. But have you seen the big man matchup going this series?
It's so interesting because every time that Shingun takes a shot from that, free throw or
Yeah.
just inside the free throw line, it feels like it's a difficult shot. And then he makes it a lot of the time. And so, games 1 and 2, I think he said this. He was rushing some of his shots because he was worried about those double teams coming. And I think
Mm.
Elan's message to him was, "Hey man, let the doubles come. Like, you are a good passer. Pick them apart once they're there. Face up and look over them and, make the play." And I think that's something that he's done a good job of these last few games. And I'm curious, like you said, I think Aiden's done a pretty good job in that matchup. And so if you get the Lakers just going back to single coverage, what does that look like for Şengün against that match? Because I don't think Aiden is a guy that he can really overpower in that match.
Right.
They're pretty evenly matched strength wise, and I don't think Aiden's going to be able to do a pretty good job as far as he's got a good wingspan. He will make it a tough shot for Şengün to go over.
Yeah. And I think what they've done, which is smart, is they've started to now pick on Kennard in
Mm.
ways that, and this is
You
not
can't
just
let them hide him, right? Like the same thing that you talked about with Shepard. You can't let Kennard just play 45 minutes without having to play any defense.
100%. And Houston doesn't really have a non-athletic player on the court that you can hide Kennard on, right? Like Rui is, I'm not saying Rui doesn't have some athleticism to him, but he's more of a slow-footed guy. I think the tough guard for the Lakers is when you put Kennard on, I think they try to hard Kennard on Reed, right? That's the end of the guard. And then Reed comes and sets the inverted screen for Sengun. And I think that is a really tough cover, especially when Amin is the one cutting off of that. I think the Lakers have had kind of some issues with that. What I feel like what they've done, I guess, defensively, and the player I kind of go next before game 6, LeBron James has had 20 turnovers in the last 3 games, and he's had 16 in Houston. The point of attack defense, I told you, that has been as advertised. Just how much was that Houston defense to you versus, I guess, LeBron without a playmaker, without Austin Reeves back, who's now back now, but yeah, how have you seen their defense against LeBron kind of evolve as the series has gone on?
I think they're making LeBron beat them one-on-one a bit more than they were earlier in the series. It felt like they were sending a bit more help than they needed to at times in the
Mm,
first couple games. And I think that you get to a spot where he's going to beat you sometimes, but if he's against Tari Eason, you don't need to send help. Let Tari,
Mm.
play that matchup. He might get a foul. It might be a bucket, but in the aggregate, that's going to tire out LeBron. And this is where he's still, you could see the difference between what he was in 2018 versus what he is now. It's an 8-year gap, but the quality of play is a little less consistent than it was back then. And so forcing him to be a scorer instead of letting him be a playmaker and use that basketball supercomputer mind, I think this worked out well.
They have him going east-west, which is super impressive. And Tari Eason, as much of his shoot, and I think I told you this in person, but Tari Eason's defense to me has been incredible to watch.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, even I think he's shooting but like 30% or whatever from three in this series. His mom making sure to let everybody know that he's doing other things well, which is which is nice to see. But yeah, their defense on LeBron, I feel like, has been impressive. They have shut Kennard off, and now when we move to Game 6, I told you at the building, I said if the Rockets won Game 5, I was pretty sure this is going 7. But just on your side, on the Houston side, I asked you a lot about the Rockets, but just love to know your perspective. What are the Rockets most worried about from a Lakers perspective coming in? What are they worried about in terms of offensively? What they're preparing for?
That's a good question. What are they most worried about? I think the Rockets. I mean, I think James is still someone you have to worry about. LeBron is still LeBron, and even if he isn't what he was before, he's still as the head of the snake, someone that you have to contend with. I think Austin Reeves getting more and more comfortable, and if you start shifting some of the Luke Kennard actions to Austin Reeves, I mean, let me tell you this, man. Reeves wasn't perfect, and you could definitely see some of the rust in Game 5. He looked good though. He looked
Yeah,
really good getting into the paint. I think he gave them an element of rim pressure that they didn't have otherwise, and he made some otherworldly passes in that game. So I would be worried about Austin Reeves giving LeBron another outlet to go to, so he doesn't have, so he can be a little bit more rested and kind of pick and choose the spots a little bit more. Defensively, I think you always just have to be worried about slumping from three when you have some streaky 3-point shooters. If, like you said, Tari Eason is shooting whatever he is from three in this series, if he goes back to shooting the way he was in game 1 and 2, or if you get Dorian Finney-Smith doesn't make a couple of threes here there. Reed Shepherd has another cold game. He was actually cold in game 5, but it didn't matter. Jabari Smith Jr. goes a little bit cold. This is always a thing that's going to be a question with the Rockets, just because they're a team that doesn't have an abundance of A+ shooters, and they have a right now without Kevin Durant, they have their top two players are guys who don't shoot the three in terms of Şengün and Thompson. So what those role players are able to do as far as making threes is going to be something I'm always keeping an eye on.
my favorite thing, I think. So Ime gets this reputation, obviously, of being hot-headed or having combustibility, right? Which I think takes its form in with the Rockets. And I feel like sometimes he says things so calmly, but then you look at the quotes of the words, you're like, wait, is that what he just said? And so, yeah, go ahead.
No, my favorite thing is that when he's cursing at other teams or refs during the middle of the game, it's
Hmm.
just like an uninterrupted stream of profanity, and it's just like delivered in the most monotone way possible, just like blah, 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 and it's just like saying some crazy things.
Right. Yeah. And so obviously him and LeBron don't seem like they're gonna go out to dinner anytime soon, or anything like that. But my favorite, I think, before game 5, he was kind of asked, I don't remember who posed the question, but what's the difference with Austin Reeves back is basically what the question was. And he answered it very calmly. And he's like, "Oh, well, I mean, they kind of run the same stuff for Luke Kennard." And I thought that was very interesting and funny. And I asked someone else, I was like, "Did he just say we're prepared for Luke Kennard, so we're prepared for Austin Reeves?" And so, but you're right. I think Austin brings a level of driving force that's I think going to be a big part of this series. They've missed him. They missed that anytime he's missed time, and that's with Luka Doncic available, who's obviously not something that has really struck my eye, Varun. And a big kind of point of emphasis before the series started was the offensive rebounding, right? And it reared its head in game 1. I believe it was 23-3 or some dominant number for the Houston Rockets. Only 6 offensive rebounds in game 5 in a game that Houston controlled. It feels to me like they're sending less people on the glass to have more defensive balance. Is that a correct theory of mine? Has the balls just not bounced their ways? It feels like the Lakers aren't getting anything in transition, and Houston is set a lot more than they used to be. This has become much more of a rock fight than I think maybe the Lakers want it to be. But yeah, just that offensive rebounding battle. Capella's now out, right? Sengun sometimes gets switched at the top, but Amin Thompson's still a force. Now the Lakers are doing their best to box out. There's a play I remember just watching. It was Austin Reeves, God help him, just returned right from an oblique injury and is trying to box out Tari Eason and Amin Thompson, right? And he just gets squished in between those two guys trying to jump for it. But yeah, that offensive rebounding battle is interesting to me. What have you kind of seen from that as the series goes now to Houston in Game 6?
You're right about the game getting a little bit more mucked up than I
Mm,
think the Lakers wanted. The pace of this is really just ground to a halt at times.
yeah.
And I think that's allowed the Rockets to push the pace on their terms. They're the
Mm,
only ones who are getting really any kind of fast break offense. You're moving with any kind of pace here. I don't know if they're sending less bodies. I'd have to rewatch to see, but
mm.
um, I still think that offensive rebounding is going to be a core part of their ethos moving forward. So I don't see them moving away from that. It's just been such a dominant part of their culture and identity for the last 2 years. So I don't see them moving away from it.
Yeah, obviously no Steven Adams in this series, which that helps the Lakers in terms of the offensive rebounding. But yeah, I guess my last thing on this before I get your kind of prediction of what's going forward. It's cool watching again, even from as an opponent, and I want your opinion. It feels like the Rockets are growing up in this series. There feels like there's a level of poise that they're kind of learning. Now, obviously, they played in the playoffs last year. I believe that was the first playoffs for that young core. Lost in 7 to the Warriors.
Came back
Um,
from 3-1 to 4-7.
yes, yes, and so, but it does feel like this is a team that has started to, that there was a lot of questions and the KD burner stuff aside from that, does feel like there were maturity questions, whether those were valid or not. But it does feel like a guy like Jabari Smith has kind of really shown he's really impressed me, Varun, of like big time shots. Lakers go on an 8-0 run and he just decides like I need a grown up shot here, and so pump fake dribble, two dribbles into a mid range pull up. Man, you talked about kind of the first few games of the series where it feels like there were some reckless drives, but he's become a guy that I always say, there's a difference between kind of reading a defense and manipulating it. And it
Mhm.
feels like he's starting to manipulate the Lakers defense. Reed Shepard, that's one of the biggest shots I've seen from a young player. Just a two dribble pull up after LeBron is, knocking down the door of, hey, I'm coming over. But yeah, is there a level of just poise and growing up in this series you've seen from the Rockets young guys?
Yes, with the caveat that if a couple things break the other way, we're having a very different conversation right now,
Okay.
right? I mean, the Lakers trap late in the game, and Amen throws a right hand live dribble. I want to say like half court pass from
Mm,
behind half court to the corner, the 3-point corner where Jabari Smith Jr. is made. If that pass is inaccurate, if that's not on the money perfectly, we're ripping Amen right now for making
mm,
that decision. But it worked out. They got fouled. They got to the free throw line. It all worked out. And so the margins are still really thin for this Rockets team. And one thing that did impress me was that one of the issues, in addition to obviously the turnovers, you look at the Jabari Smith turnover in Game 3. Amen Thompson should have been more assertive in coming back and getting the ball and saying, "Hey, I'm the point guard. I'm going to bring the ball up." He
mm,
doesn't do so. Jabari brings the ball up. Jabari makes a turnover because he's kind of trying to get the ball to Amen. And
mm,
so late in the game, you saw that anytime the Rockets brought it up, it was either Amen or it was Reed. And so that was something where I did see some growth, especially from those two young guards. And so those two have been obviously an ongoing, growth area for the team all season since Fred VanVleet went down. It's going to be one of the most, it's one of the keys for the season. It is one that continues to be so. And so if they're able to continue that growth, it'll be interesting. And so the other thing that stood out to me was you talked about Jabari. He was so vocal on the court
mm.
yesterday. Just Shingun, something doesn't go right with Shingun. He quickly goes over and he's like, "Hey," patting him on the shoulder, like, "Hey, you got this, you got this," And so, and he said, like, I'm trying to be as vocal as possible. I'm trying to be a leader, and I think that's pretty impressive for a guy who's still, I think he's in his fourth season.
Yeah, I think my favorite, and yeah, I'm not sure if Jabari knew this. There's, so Rui Hachimura does this on the Lakers run where he's so transparent. He doesn't really like even know that what he said would hit headlines. You know what I mean? So he's and I don't know if that's just a language kind of barrier thing for him, but Jabari had the quote, I guess, of they asked him about Katie's double teams, and he said, "Well, Katie's gonna have to get it. He's gonna have to score anyway, right? Like um he can't let the double team stop him." But no, but other than that, I feel like he's had a great series, and I feel like all the young guys have started to step up. Just really quickly, you've talked about the margins. I think something that Houston has done really well, and JJ Redick talked about it before the series started. He said, "This team's not going to be able to get up a bunch of threes. Like this, just the way the Lakers are constructed. Obviously, Austin Reeves comes back, takes 8 threes. I believe hit 2 of them, and they were all to me difficult. Most of them, at least, couple open ones in transition. But
He
other
was
than that, I thought,
firing deep, man.
what was that?
He was firing away from deep a couple of times.
Yeah, and those are the shots that he likes to take. He'll settle into those and take some deep ones. But yeah, first game back. But the Lakers are last, at least before Game 5, they were last in 3-point attempts in the playoffs. And that's something that I think is that Houston's done a good job taking them off. We talked about Kennard. I've been so impressed that they've scouted not just his 3-pointer, but they've scouted like when he drives left, we're taking away the pull up. When he drives right, we're expecting, the drive to the rim. Like he just like they have scouted him directly. But when we have 2 games left, and I said this before, but it feels like these 2 teams have been doing hot potato with house money in this series. So it started, I believe, with the Lakers holding the house money. And then they flipped it over to the Rockets after Kevin Durant was out, and now it's flipped back and forth. But to me, the Rockets hold the house money right now. Like they were down 3-0. There's never happened where a team has come back, or a team has surrendered a 3-0 series lead. Just what do you see happening in Game 6, or if necessary, Game 7?
Man, that's tough. The series has been so close, and like we talked about,
Yeah.
the margins have been so slim, and a couple shots, go in and out, and we're having a very different conversation right now. I think I'll say that the Rockets win Game 6 and lose Game 7. That's my current prediction.
That's where I'm at too. Before the series, I think we talked before Game 1, and I had Lakers in 6, but that was KD healthy at the time, and I just it was a completely different series. I'm with you on that. I don't know if you felt this, but that crypto crowd was nervous. There was a lot of nervous energy. It was very tense. On TV, they're saying that it was not loud. Now I couldn't really tell on the rewatch, but it was a tense building, and I think it will be again if this goes to Game 7 where anything can happen. I think the Rockets win by a good amount tomorrow. That's just kind of how I see things going. I think they're going to have the legs. I just don't know where LeBron and Austin, who just come back, find their legs a day after they play. And so I think Houston, wins Game 6, and then we get you on a flight back to Los Angeles for a wonderful, fun. I'm gonna put fun in quotation marks because for the Lakers I'm sure it would be a miserable experience for a while, but an interesting at least Game 7. Friend, this has been awesome. Do you have anything else from this series that you want to point out or kind of?
I think we hit it all.
Awesome. Well, make sure to go follow Varun Shankar on all social media platforms. By Varun Shankar, that's ByVarunShankar. I will also put that in the description. Again, he's a beat reporter for the Houston Chronicle. Varun, thank you so much, man, for your time.
I appreciate it. Thank you for having me on.